Of all three of Kenneth Branagh's Hercule Poirot movies, and I've seen all of them, I saw Murder on the Orient Express in theaters, and then like most people, I was delighted when Death on the Nile went to Hulu. We even did a watch-along, but then I watched the movie. Oh, that was rough. But anyway, this is his best of the three, although it doesn't have a strong cameo from someone like Johnny Depp to really make it sparkle. Allow me to explain, because I think that this movie, while A Haunting in Venice is made so well from top to bottom from a craftsmanship perspective, from people who are behind the camera, the cast is where it really falls short. And that's what really undercut Death on the Nile as well. Plus, too much green screen there. But it was during the pandemic, so they did the best they could. And I thought that there was obviously an all-star cast in his Murder on the Orient Express, but that script sucked. This script, they're all from Michael Green, by the way, who's hit or miss all the time, even beyond this franchise. And this is his best script in this franchise, too. But I think it's good. Kenneth Branagh is what sells the whole thing, both in front of and behind the camera. But so I think another screenwriter could have done a little bit of a better job. I mean, the screenwriting is a little bit weak, but the acting is where we have a real problem, particularly from Tina Fey, Jamie Dornan. I mean, I like Jamie Dornan. I'm rooting for the guy, but I still have yet to see evidence that he's a good actor. I mean, he's not a bad actor, but he's not a good actor. And then also Kelly Riley. These three, if it weren't for Kenneth Branagh's spectacular visuals, oh my goodness, we're going to talk about that. But this would be a movie that I would definitely say you should wait for digital or streaming to watch. I mean, these three do all right, and their costumes do a lot of the work for them, although Tina Fey, speaking of the script, Tina Fey does have some great lines. In fact, they're so good that part of me wonders if maybe she improvised some of them, because she's, of course, a very talented writer and comedian. Dramatic actress, not so much. But they just don't make their roles sparkle like a true cinematic actor would be able to do. Example, if you've seen the recent episode 4 of Ahsoka and they finally gave Ray Stevenson some dialogue, I mean, you can see the difference, how he really jazzes the whole thing up. And it's the same here. Now, speaking of Tina Fey, she's also recently been seen on Only Murders in the Building, which has a lot of similarities to the Hercule Poirot stories and movies. So does Knives Out, which makes sense because that, of course, is an homage to Agatha Christie. That's the whole way that was dreamed up by Rian Johnson and Daniel Craig. But with Kenneth Branagh's Poirot and Craig's Benoit Blanc, which you can, I mean, just from the names alone, you can see the inspiration. But they're both so eccentric that these two seem particularly similar, especially with the opening setup of this movie. There's the opening of this film reminded me a lot of key sequences in Glass Onion. And Glass Onion was just so much more cinematic in many, many ways, although the visuals here are stunning. So let's talk about them. So everybody has been filming in Italy. In fact, at the beginning of this film, you might recognize one of the bridges from a key sequence in Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning. I sure did. I was like, oh, look there's the bridge. But to his credit, Kenneth Branagh does a beautiful job capturing the city. But on top of that, he also has a very special task at hand. Not only to capture its old world beauty and craftsmanship. I've been to Venice, I was in a lot of these locations, and he showed me details that I had not caught. So I was like, that was really cool. It was fun to be back there, but it was also fun to see it in a very different way. And he also shows its foreboding, and creepy elements. And on that note, he really hits a home run. I was like, this is excellently creepy. I love it. Add to that masterful camera work, framing, pacing. It's just a very well-directed movie, very inventive, far beyond anything that Branagh has done with his Poirot movies, or even just recently. I mean, you would have to go back to Cinderella, which, as I said, is one of the best wedding cake musical examples of recent movies that I've seen. For those of you who aren't aware, the mise en scène, the production design that you want for these live-action fairy tales, or it comes from musicals, it's called wedding cake, just to be so ornate and lavish and over the top and have that flair and fantasy and like tinge of romance to it. And boy, did he accomplish that in Cinderella. And so also he, I think, similarly flourishes in Hamlet, visual flourishes, although these are much more understated because of the type of movie it is, and obviously it's a lower budget, and I think Kenneth Branagh has less to prove. But you know what? This is like a slice of bloody wedding cake to a degree. Wouldn't it be interesting if he had gotten Haunted Mansion? With all due, I mean, I thought that movie was okay, but it seemed a little streaming, just like, you know, the acting here seems a little streaming. So maybe, you know, somewhere in here there's like a really good cinematic masterpiece. I bet Disney releases both of them around the same time on their streaming services. Haunted Mansion on Disney Plus and A Haunting in Venice on Hulu. I would actually put them both on your Halloween watch list. So few Halloween movies that we all haven't seen so many times. And so if you haven't seen these, I think they would actually be very atmospheric for Halloween, especially if you didn't catch them in theaters. But by the way, Kenneth Branagh's best thriller, if you want to go back and watch a really good scary movie, watch 1991's Dead Again. Strong recommendation. Have you seen Dead Again? Back me up here. All right, so, and while Kenneth Branagh has jazzed things up with a horror element, which I easily deduced, it was very clever. I don't want to give anything away, but I was like, that is a clever but yet organic way to add this to a Hercule Poirot story. But it's at its heart, because it is a Hercule Poirot story, it's a whodunit. And I love whodunits. I was able to guess a key part of the mystery as soon as it was introduced. Again, I was like, oh, I see it. I got it. I even whispered it. You know, some press screenings you can bring a guest, and I was like, oh, I got to tell you, I got to call it. And so I was right. I got it. However, it didn't ruin the movie for me or my friend because there were still plenty of twists and turns that genuinely surprised me. And I felt they were all earned. I was like, oh, that's a good one. Didn't see it coming, but I like it. There is a lot, by the way, not given away in the trailers. The last trailer they put out was a little spoilery. I didn't see it actually until after I'd seen the movie because it played in front of The Nun 2, which I saw after A Haunting in Venice. What a back-to-back movie night experience. I think A Haunting in Venice is a little bit better because it's more visually arresting. But for the most part, if you've only seen the early trailers or only just like, you know, you haven't seen any trailers maybe, you know, there's a lot to be surprised with. And also because they changed so much from the original short story that it's based on. So there's a lot here. So that's great. You know, I think most people watching it will be surprised, at least by part of it. You, like me, you might, I mean, if you really are a fan of whodunits, you'll guess what I guessed. So not only do I love whodunits, but I really love atmospheric murder mysteries. Oh, I love them so much. Oh, I grew up reading them. I'm just such a fan. And particularly when you make them period pieces, oh boy. So I am the target audience for this film. And you'll know if you are as well. I like old 1940s movies as well, especially some of the thrillers. And this has that element too. So I really like that stuff. But even with all that going for the movie, it does lag significantly in the middle. It's lean as it is. It's under 2 hours. It's a quick watch, which maybe will help it in theaters and on streaming. I mean, so many times now you're like, it's every movie over 3 hours. Well, here's a nice short and sweet one. It's under 2 hours. But even still, I would have cut 20 minutes out of this. But wait a minute, then it wouldn't be long enough to be a movie. Well, then add other stuff in. 20 minutes of this cut needs to go because it's so cozy and there's so much candlelight and Kenneth Branagh is speaking as Hercule Poirot with his accent. I mean, I think you might fall asleep. I think there's a strong chance of it, especially if you watch it in digital or streaming. But it makes a very nice story tape, I must say. If you like story tapes, also you will or old-time radio plays. Oh, those are great. You'll probably like this too. Of the cast, Kenneth Branagh is, of course, always enjoyable. And here he tones down his Hercule Poirot a little bit. I thought he had the best mustache he's had to date. It was crazy, like it's supposed to be, but not to the point of distraction. So he was very good, and he had some funny lines too. But speaking of costume and hair and makeup, boy, do you not also love Michelle Yeoh's look here? I think she looks incredible. I was like, wow, that haircut looks so good on you, Michelle. Plus, how great is it that she's in a Hollywood made movie where she's not a martial artist or a mother figure. I hope this keeps up, and it should, because she's now an Oscar-winning actress. So I love this for Michelle Yeoh in every way possible. Camille Cotin, she's a French actress, so I believe that's how you pronounce her name. She also does a nice job because she not only is a good actress, but she has a particularly good look for this type of movie. And by the way, the makeup artist just did a great job on all the female cast. Like, they had like some incredible, subtle, smoky eyes going on. I was like, who did the eye makeup on this movie? It is incredible. Oh, and Jude Hill, who I couldn't place him, but I was like, is he new? Where did he come from? He came from Kenneth Branagh's Belfast. He is growing up quite quickly, but he's growing up into quite an actor. I mean, he got a lot of praise for Belfast. I hated Belfast. I turned Belfast off, actually. I didn't get very far into it. Also, Jamie Dornan. But here I was like, I'm a Jude Hill fan. He was so good, a real scene stealer. Absolutely loved him. And it's also nice to have Riccardo Scamarcio representing Italians in a film that takes place in Italy. Whatever, it's fine, it's nice. So it's a real nice movie, especially, you'll know, like myself, if it's, made for you. If it is, I think you should see it in theaters. I would recommend it to similarly like-minded people, especially because it's slow right now, and this movie is perfect for the fall season. Oh, it just oozes fall. You got yourself some cider. You go in there, you have a little warm treat. Oh, you're probably gonna fall asleep if you drink all that and eat all that warm stuff, but you're gonna have such a good time. But when it hits digital and streaming, even if you're on the line or if you don't really know it's for you, I mean, it's such a great atmospheric murder mystery, and it's different than a lot of the other horror movies that are out right now. I'd give it a whirl. I think it was good. But again, as I said, there's a small chance you might fall asleep. But hopefully you'll wake up and then rewind if you miss it. But you're going to want to see the ending because it's clever. I liked it. It's one of those mysteries that has a lot of layers to it. They're like, oh, we're not done. And I was like, okay. And then they kept going in a way that I thought was good. And then also there's some visuals. Throughout the whole movie, it's so stunning. But in the third act, there was some really cool stuff that was a surprise. And I was like, that was so nice. Some of it they put in the final trailer. And I was like, why would you put that in the final trailer? But I thought it was great. Again, if you like the Tower of Terror in Disney theme parks, if you like that kind of stuff, Haunted Mansion, the Haunted Mansion attraction, this is a good movie. So nice job, Branagh. And if you don't, well, there are gorier, more true horror films for you to watch. Share your thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.